Archangel Michael says, "Stop. This is going to happen in 30 seconds, and God is ordering you to watch this video. Open it now." Archangel Michael says, "Stop. This is going to happen in 30 seconds, and God is ordering you to watch this video. Open it now." The air shifts as these words arrive, and the second hand on your unseen clock jolts into a new rhythm. Your heart knows that obedience carries weight, and that weight is moving toward you with holy precision. The countdown has begun at 30, and each breath becomes a decree you do not ignore. The room around you holds stillness like a sealed envelope with your name pressed into the wax. The seal will break, and your name will rise from silence. At 29, a current of light slides beneath your feet and steadies your steps. Your doubts try to scatter, yet they collect and fall like dust from the ledge of yesterday. You stand on the edge of immediate change, and you do not step back. At 28, a hidden door in your timeline clicks, and the lock agrees with your courage. The handle turns because you chose to look and not to look away. Your willingness is a key that refuses to fail. At 27, a memory of loss tries to form a storm inside your chest. The light does not argue with the storm. It simply shines through every drop until the rain confesses its name. The clouds hold and then release, exactly on schedule. At 26, a messenger walks the corridor of your future with an envelope wrapped in cobalt thread. The thread hums with purpose, and the envelope warms as if it remembers your touch. The message was written before your fears ever learned to speak. At 25, the wind begins to trace circles around you as if sketching a seal. The seal does not bind you. It brands protection into your atmosphere. Protection stands where danger thought it had a seat. At 24, a bell you cannot see tolls once, and each echo lifts a weight from your shoulders. The first echo releases a disappointment that kept rehearsing its lines in your head. The next echo dismisses an accusation that never deserved your attention. At 23, the floor beneath regret cracks in quiet surrender. There is no collapse. There is only an exit for what never belonged. What stays is what strengthens, and it chooses you without hesitation. At 22, pathways braid themselves like cords so your steps do not tangle. The cords are not ropes to bind you. They are lines to guide you through tight passages. You move like someone who knows there is room for them wherever truth walks. At 21, the clock stops trying to intimidate your progress. Time respects the one who listens when heaven speaks. You listen, so time shifts into cooperation. At 20, your lungs learn a new rhythm that favors clarity. Inhale the assurance that this moment is divine appointment, not random interruption. Exhale the belief that you must earn what has already been decided for you. At 19, a name flashes through your mind and tries to pull you back into old patterns. The light does not chase shadows. It simply reveals a door out of the room where those patterns live. The door stands ajar, as if someone just walked through and left it open for you. At 18, a sound like feathers against stone suggests someone guarding your path. There is movement at your back and stillness at your front. Stillness means the road ahead has already been cleared. At 17, a ledger opens and false debts go dim. The entries that condemn you lose their ink and their voice. Your account carries fresh numbers that match your calling, not your critics. At 16, the horizon in your heart pushes closer until it is no longer far. Distance is a rumor where purpose is concerned. You stand at the threshold of immediate proof. At 15, the exact middle of this countdown steadies your hands. You do not tremble because trembling is busy letting go of you. What remains is focus that refuses to break. At 14, a lamp appears in the corner of the room of your attention. The lamp burns with a familiar flame that does not scorch. It clarifies. You see what is yours to carry and what is not. At 13, a script you believed you had to follow crumples in the pocket of your mind. The words fade, and your true lines arrive with heat and simplicity. You speak them without rehearsal because they were born inside you to begin with. At 12, the air tastes like new beginnings that do not require perfect conditions. A door does not wait for the weather to like you. A door opens because it was built for your arrival. At 11, the future places a hand on your shoulder and turns you slightly to the left. The angle changes everything and reveals a path you missed by a single degree. The missing step announces itself and pulls you forward. At 10, the final stretch begins, and your courage puts on its running shoes. This is not a sprint against panic, but a stride toward alignment. Alignment loves those who respond when called. At 9, you no longer negotiate with delay. Delay realizes it cannot afford you. You move, and delay watches you go. At 8, a quiet voice inside folds your fears like clothes that no longer fit. The drawer closes and refuses to reopen. Your size has changed in the presence of purpose. At 7, you remember promises you once set aside because the timing felt strange. The timing steps into the room and nods, as if it has been patient on your behalf. You nod back because recognition unknots resistance. At 6, your breath becomes instruction. Inhale, and you receive what the moment carries. Exhale, and you refuse to carry what the moment never asked you to hold. At 5, the room hums like a low choir under your skin. Harmony arranges your thoughts until the loudest thing inside you is peace. Peace moves like a shield, and every arrow remembers its place on the ground. At 4, a map unfolds in the center of your chest with paths that glow. The path to your next yes is brightest, and your feet know it by feel. You are guided, not guessed. At 3, the gravity of destiny draws near enough to change your balance. Your center of weight shifts into trust. Trust stabilizes steps that look impossible from the outside. At 2, the air around you tightens into a promise that will not be delayed. The moment does not ask if you are ready. It arrives because readiness has asked for you. Your name and now fit together without struggle. At 1, everything inside you becomes still. The stillness is not empty. It is full of power, like a tide pulling back before it moves forward with force. You hold your ground because your ground holds you. At 0, the instruction lands and the decree seals. The seal is not wax but willingness. Your willingness writes the next page in ink that never fades. Archangel Michael says, "This opening is not a suggestion. It is a command carrying your relief." The command arrived with mercy, and mercy holds you by the hand. The hand does not let go when the room grows loud. A door swings wide in the corridor of your week, and the hinges do not complain. The door has waited for you since the day someone told you that you were too late. You were never late. You were being positioned. Your past tries to argue its case, but the present raises a hand and says enough. The gavel falls in your favor with a sound that rearranges the dust. Dust does not speak any longer where verdicts have been stamped. You step through, and the floor greets your weight with certainty. Certainty does not need a crowd. It only needs your agreement. You agree, and the path ahead lights like dawn pouring through tall windows. Light gathers your scattered courage and places it neatly in your chest. You touch your chest as a reflex, as if to check that something sacred truly arrived. It did, and it refuses to leave. The messenger, with the cobalt thread, returns and rests the envelope in your palm. Your name glows through the paper like embers beneath snow. You do not hesitate because hesitation has no authority here. You open the envelope and find words that feel like they were written on your bones. The first sentence is a key that unlocks a memory of being chosen. Being chosen starts to feel normal in the best possible way. Your steps lengthen and take on a cadence that agrees with acceleration. Acceleration does not panic, it prepares. The prepared path meets prepared feet, and the distance between desire and evidence collapses. A memory tries to pull you into a hallway of delay, but the light corners it kindly. The memory is healed by being seen and then released by being honored. Honor frees you faster than force ever could. A quiet thunder rolls behind you, not as warning but as confirmation. The ground learns your name as you walk, and the path puts on a welcome it's saved for this hour. Welcome is not sentimental, it is structural, like beams under a roof. You hold your head differently because hope has a posture. The posture adjusts your perspective until your present aligns with your promise. Promise is not a theory here. It is architecture. You pause at a threshold where three choices branch like rivers. The left river is shallow and noisy, promising quick applause. The right river is dark and stagnant, promising safety that costs your voice. The middle river flows straight and honest with a quiet shine on its skin. Quiet things are often strongest where your future lies. You step into the center stream because you were built for clear water. The water does not swallow you, it holds you like warm hands. Your ankles learn the direction, and your knees lose their ache for the approval of familiar shores. Each step brings a new piece of the horizon within reach. A city waits ahead, lit in ways you once thought were reserved for other people. The gates find your face and recognize your arrival like a long-expected friend. You walk in with grace that needs no permission slip. Inside, a table has been set with documents, keys, and maps. The documents carry your signature already, not forged but foreknown. Your hand simply traces what had been decided by love that sees further than fear. The keys gleam and rest against each other like faithful companions. Each key fits a lock that leads to something you once lost or surrendered. You lift the first key because it hums in your palm like music you recognize. A door opens into a room filled with tools you once begged for and then forgot. The tools do not punish your delay. They invite your hands to work without struggle. You touch them and remember you were never helpless. The maps unfold to reveal paths that avoid snares you used to step into on reflex. The snares now look small, and their teeth are dull. You walk past them and they do not follow. A figure stands near the window where the city's glow brushes the floor. The figure is not a threat but a guide wearing the calm of someone who knows the route. The guide points, and the point removes weeks of worry in a single motion. You move again, and the windows along the hall brighten as you pass. Each window opens its latch with a soft click that sounds like approval. Approval rests easy on your shoulders because you have nothing to prove here. Your old voice returns, the one that sounded like you before disappointment tried to edit your sentences. The voice is clear and warm and precise. It says yes without rehearsing 1,000 scenarios first. You do what the moment asks without apology. Obedience does not make you small. It places you where influence actually lives. Influence arrives quietly and fills the room before anyone has time to argue. The floor shifts subtly under your feet like a ship leaving harbor. Departure used to scare you because you confused it with loss. Now you know departure is simply engagement with distance in a way that brings it closer. You pass a mirror and catch a glimpse of your face becoming familiar in new ways. The lines of worry loosen and release their grip on your expression. Relief stands where strain tried to set up a permanent address. A gentle weight settles over your shoulders like a mantle woven from midnight and dawn. The fabric smells like rain after a long heat, the sort of rain that forgives the ground. You wear it without fear and it fits like intention. The staircase descending to the street is wide and kind to your knees. The rail is cool under your palm and admits it has steadied many before you. You take each step with the certainty of someone who knows the landing is real. On the street, the sound of your name carries in the air without shouting. It is whispered by opportunity that prefers to arrive with dignity. Dignity meets you and does not demand performance. A door across the way opens and a person you will need appears, carrying the one thing you could not carry alone. They do not gloat about their timing. They simply extend what you need because their timing is obedience too. You receive without suspicion because this is not a trap. It is fulfillment. Fulfillment resolves the ache you normalized for so long that you called it identity. Identity loosens its borrowed clothing and puts on what was always yours. A clock chimes in a distant tower and you hear the sound as confirmation. Chimes become a calendar that refuses to agree with dread. Your hours are not hunters anymore. They are hosts. The sky, which used to feel too high to touch, lowers itself like a friend leaning in. You do not strain to reach it. It bows to meet your height. Heaven and earth shake hands in your ordinary day because obedience has opened the gate. You feel your feet remember speed again. Speed is not rush. Speed is rightness. Rightness moves like a river that already knows where to turn. Archangel Michael says, "The command you obeyed became the bridge you walk." The bridge does not creak because it was designed for your weight and your work. You do not fear the drop because purpose built a guardrail you cannot see. The people who doubted you will witness, and those who believed will build with you. There is no room for bitterness in your hands because they are full of tools. Tools never argue when truth is in charge. A letter arrives in the evening addressed to the version of you who almost surrendered. You open it and smile because it reads like a farewell to scarcity. Scarcity leaves quietly when abundance stands in the doorway. The doorway leads to a workspace bright enough to make your plans visible. Plans become blueprints when clarity walks in. Clarity corrects your measurements and makes room for generosity that does not try to keep score. Your breath evens out as the night settles without heaviness. It becomes a friend that brings rest instead of worry. Rest builds muscle you cannot see until the task arrives. You look back over the day and realize that 30 seconds were long enough to start an earthquake in your favor. The plates under your life shifted and created new ground. The new ground does not apologize for replacing the old. You notice a habit in yourself changing mid-thought. The habit had been to minimize what arrived for you so that you would not feel disappointed later. Disappointment loses its job when expectancy takes yours seriously. You stand at the window and watch the city carry your name without controversy. Your name no longer echoes inside you like a question. It settles like a landmark that travelers use to find direction. Morning returns like a faithful courier, and the courier enjoys its work. It lays the new day at your feet like a letter you already know how to read. You walk into the day because the day has been waiting for your footsteps. You move through rooms where once you felt you had to ask permission. Permission now recognizes you and steps aside. You are not loud. Your yes is all the volume you require. The people who meet you sense the difference and they lift their eyes. Eyes that used to fall to the floor learn to meet yours. Mutual recognition replaces posturing, and agreements form without manipulation. You finish tasks that once felt like mountains because the mountain learned your name. Named things are approachable, and approachable things are conquerable. You conquer without cruelty and build without burnout. The message that brought you here continues to echo, not as pressure but as promise. The echo becomes the rhythm you walk to, like a drum too wise to rush. Wisdom braces your decisions and your decisions bloom. You find yourself laughing without trying to earn your joy. Laughter fits your face and returns your voice to its original warmth. Warmth draws trustworthy allies who prefer substance over spectacle. The roads you used to avoid now look wide and honest. You take them without fear because fear lost the contract it held on your imagination. Imagination hires hope as a partner, and they deliver ahead of schedule. Your body learns the difference between urgency and anxiety. Urgency is precise and kind. Anxiety is vague and loud. You choose precision, and vagueness leaves the room. You end the day the way you began this moment, with obedience. Obedience does not diminish your freedom. It introduces your freedom to purpose, and they agree to walk together. Agreement multiplies your traction and shortens unnecessary detours. When night leans in again, it does so with the deference that the fulfilled feel in their bones. Your bones, which used to carry old fatigue, begin to carry clean strength. Clean strength makes you generous without fear of depletion. The city sleeps, but your future does not, because your future is not anxious. It is attentive. Attention keeps watch in the quiet and guards what was placed in your hands. Guarding is not hoarding, it is stewardship. You rest inside a promise that feels like a house that finally fits. The roof does not leak, the doors do not stick, the windows do not rattle like excuses. Everything is aligned and everything is enough. And as you close your eyes, the final truth stands in the doorway of your night like a sentinel. The truth is simple and complete and kind. You obeyed, and because you obeyed, everything that needed to find you as your address. The countdown that began with urgency ends with certainty. Certainty is not arrogant. It is anchored. You are anchored now, and the waters respect your position. In the quiet that follows, gratitude rises like heat from fresh bread. You do not try to hold it down or explain it away. You let it do its work and it fills the room. The room itself feels different because you are different. You have stepped into the space you were made to occupy. The space meets you with open hands and asks for nothing but your continued yes. Your continued yes is the simple act that moves mountains without breaking your back. Mountains move because they recognize the authority on your words. Your words carry that authority because they agree with what is true. So you rise tomorrow and the next day with the same peace you found in these 30 seconds. Peace is now muscle memory, not fragile mood. It steadies and strengthens and sends you. You walk, and doors open on contact. You speak, and clarity arranges itself in the air. You choose, and provision takes its assigned seat. This is the life that blooms on the other side of a single obedient moment. Momentum becomes movement, and movement becomes the testimony you carry without strain. And as you sleep, the sentence that changed everything still draws breath in the room. Stop, because this is going to happen. And you answered. You open, and open you. If you wish to express your support further, you have the option to give super thanks, with contributions of up to $20. You wake and the morning does not test you before it greets you. The greeting sounds like a door unlocking from the inside. You step through without bargaining with your courage. The calendar on your wall looks ordinary, but the days begin to hum. Each square carries a quiet assignment that favors your progress. You touch today and feel it click into alignment. News arrives that used to erupt like fire alarms, and now it lands like mail you were expecting. You open it with steady hands because steadiness has become your default. Your default becomes your advantage in rooms where panic used to earn attention. You move through tasks with a clarity that makes noise unnecessary. Noise, which once rented space in your thoughts, have been evicted for non-payment of peace. Peace pays in full and on time. People come with needs, and you meet them with resources instead of apologies. Apologies once disguised your capacity. Now capacity stands in the doorway first. The doorway remains wide because generosity keeps propping it open. A memory tries to pull you back into a smaller room, but the larger room refuses to shrink. The walls breathe because hope keeps windows unlocked. Air moves where it once stalled, and you inhale proof that you belong. You return to the table with documents and keys and maps, and new items wait. There is a seal with your insignia on it, and it fits your hand. Authority feels comfortable because you finally stopped arguing with it. You practice decisions like an instrument until the song becomes muscle memory. The melody is simple. Listen, agree, move. The rhythm is kindness toward yourself while you do it. Someone approaches with a warning wrapped in urgency that carries fear's handwriting. You read it, bless it, and set it down without swallowing it. Not every urgent knot deserves your door. You choose the projects that sing when you touch them. Work stops being a battlefield and becomes a garden again. Gardens grow because attention shows up like rain. A message arrives from someone who once misunderstood your silence. They admit the distance they introduced and ask for a bridge. You agree because your bridges are built from more than old hurt. The bridge holds because you do not demand repayment for the past. Repayment belongs to stories that haven't learned how to end. Your story knows how to end and begin in the same breath. You revisit the ledger that lost its accusations and see new entries in clean ink. These entries spell out provision arriving by paths you'd never would have designed. You smile because design has exceeded your taste for control. A room you feared opens with a soft light that refuses to judge you. You step in and find tools that match your present size, not your former shame. Shame shrinks when sea-level kindness enters. You meet the guide again and notice the city reflected in their eyes. The reflection shows streets you will walk without rehearsing your footsteps. You thank them because gratitude expands the corners of every room. A middle river that once welcomed your ankles now welcomes your knees. Depth increases, but fear does not. You float because trust has learned to hold you. You find a list you wrote in a season of survival, and it looks like a stranger's letter. You honor the version of you who wrote it and gently retire it. Retiring old lists creates space for living names. A door labeled later swings open and the sign falls off. Later becomes now because now respects those who show up. You walk in and set down your willingness like a passport already stamped. Your voice grows another octave of warmth and strength. It fills without crowding and invites without pleading. Invitations sent from wholeness do not require reminders. You pay attention to the way your body says yes to alignment. Shoulders stop wearing the weather of other people's storms. Feet stop auditioning for rooms not built for them. An old fear tries to rebrand itself as caution, but you can hear the costume rustle. You bless its attempt and walk past its performance. Performance art ends where discernment begins. The corridor of your week stretches with friendly light. Your steps sound like decisions that know where they're going. Decisions hum when they're not dragging an apology. You run into someone who used to compete with you for scarcity scraps. They look surprised at the abundance in your hands. Abundance smiles because it knows it will be enough for both. A gate labeled influence stands unlocked and unguarded. You hesitate for half a blink and then walk through with dignity. Dignity knows how to behave in any room. You share what you carry without staging a parade. Quiet delivery, right on time, fills a need that didn't realize it could be met without drama. Drama dissolves in the presence of completion. The messenger with the cobalt thread returns with a second envelope. Inside are 3 names you will bless in the next season. Blessing arrives as strategy that looks like kindness. You write notes to your future from your present clarity. The notes read like maps that don't brag about being right. They simply point and let your feet agree. Your home learns how to keep only what strengthens you. Drawers refuse to hold clutter that steals your attention. Surfaces invite focus instead of pileups. You find an old photograph that used to trigger ache. Today it releases gratitude for how far you have come. Gratitude washes the edges and leaves the center bright. A phone call interrupts your afternoon with a request you would have said yes to out of fear. You say no with a softness that cannot be argued with. No protects the space where your true work breathes. You open your window and the city answers with opportunity. Opportunity doesn't shout this time. It nods with respect. Respect meets you because you first showed it to yourself. A letter stamped validation shows up, but you keep it sealed. You do not need a court you didn't appoint to approve what was already commissioned. Commissioned work carries its own credentials. You examine your calendar again and move 2 items to never. Lever you to frighten you. Now it free you. Freedom is the friend who never gossips about your past. You remember the initial 30 seconds and marvel at their compound interest. Seconds turned into days that behave like eyes. Eyes introduce you to rooms you didn't know would like you. You schedule rest as if it were a meeting with brilliance. Brilliance shows up because it loves boundaries. Boundaries keep the light bright where you work. A mentor figure appears with a sentence you needed, but didn't know to ask for. The sentence lands with a click that aligns a door frame in your mind. Doors stop sticking when frames agree. You revise a plan not because you failed, but because you grew. Growth makes prior measurements honest and obsolete. Honesty is how you keep winning without keeping score. You no longer loan your attention to people who pay in confusion. Confusion cannot afford your rate. Clarity pays up front and leaves a tip. The night arrives without the old ache. You sit in a chair that used to be a battlefield and find that it is simply furniture again. Furniture doesn't argue, it supports. In the stillness, you hear the rhythm of your new life. The drum is made of promises that refuse to die. Promise, alive and well, sets the tempo for your steps. You write to the version of you who nearly surrendered. The letter says, "I'm proud of you for waiting long enough to learn the right speed." Speed is not rush. It is alignment in motion. Warning again, and with it another proof. Proof becomes a pattern and patterns become a culture. Your inner culture now grows fruit without straining the branch. You accept invitations that smell like purpose and decline those that smell like panic. Panic sometimes dresses in opportunity. Your discernment sees the seam. Seams tell the truth if you look closely. You mentor someone who carries a familiar ache. You don't rush their healing or romanticize their pain. You hold space like a quiet room with good light. A door labeled reputation offers you shortcuts. You walk past because shortcuts hide tolls you pay with your integrity. Integrity prefers the long road where scenery teaches you. You audit your commitments and discover a promise you made to yourself years ago. You keep it now not as penance but as celebration. Celebrations that begin in private last in public. The guide returns with a small smile and a wider map. The new routes are not detours. They are expansions. Expansion waits for those who don't hoard yesterday. You meet resistance and greet it like an old coworker. It remembers you and steps aside because you are no longer impressed by it. Respect flows toward what you do not fear. You hear an old rumor about yourself and feel nothing catch. The net has been cut by truth, and gossip falls through it. Truth becomes your only PR, A window opens onto a project that will outlive your worry. You accept the scope without pretending to be smaller. Smallness was a defense. Now you are defended without it. You clean your tools and they shine with readiness. Readiness stops craving permission and starts welcoming instruction. Instruction lands like rain on ground that knows how to drink. You deliver a piece of work that feels like a signature. Signatures are not loud, they are distinct. Distinction is quiet power that never begs to be believed. A friend arrives with laughter that repairs something you didn't know was cracked. The crack closes without a sky. Scars have their place, but today softness won. You walk through the part of the city that once felt bigger than you. Now it feels proportionate because you grew where it mattered. Growth is the only answer pride can't counterfeit. You stop by a river's bend and listen to water tell you the shape of patience. Patience doesn't stall, it studies the turn. Studying the turn makes your next move simple. An invitation to chaos arrives disguised as urgency. You bless it, file it, and let it expire without ceremony. Expiration dates are a kindness you can enforce. You answer a question with a boundary and the room breathes easier. Boundaries remove the need for secret negotiations. Negotiation is for contracts. Your values are non-transferable. You receive a message from someone who once competed with your wounds. They ask for help and you give it without reopening old altars. Giving does not require bleeding anymore. A door labeled legacy waits without impatience. You do not run to it. You arrive by walking as yourself. The luck recognizes the gate of those who belong. You enter and find work that looks like a letter to people you may never meet. The letter is written in choices, habits, and quiet courage. Quiet things echo the longest. The messenger with the cobalt thread appears once more, empty-handed and content. Their work is done for now, because yours has begun in earnest. You nod, and they fade like dusk becoming evening. The evening rests on your shoulders like a shawl woven by those who prayed for you. Some you will meet, most you won't, and that is fine. Intercession stitched a path, obedience walked it. Your final thought before sleep is lighter than it used to be. Lightness is not denial, it is the absence of unnecessary weight. Unnecessary weight cannot find you anymore. You wake and realize the city has learned your pace. It no longer rushes you or stalls you, it partners with you. Partnership is the upgrade from performance you didn't know you needed. You enter a meeting where the agenda would have swallowed you in a prior season. Today it tastes like opportunity instead of obligation. You contribute from overflow, not from the last reserves. Someone asks how you became this steady and this clear. You do not deliver a formula. You describe a moment. The moment began with a countdown and ended with a door. You lead without announcing it. Leadership, when it is healthy, looks like service that refuses to martyr itself. Your yes is generous and sustainable. A path turns that you did not plan, and you do not panic. Plans are maps. Maps are not the terrain. The terrain is kind to those who keep listening. You check the ledger again and see a line item called joy. The balance is healthy because you stopped withdrawing it for other people's comfort. Comfort is now mutual instead of lopsided. You return to the river and let it read your reflection back to you. The water does not flatter. It tells the truth kindly. Kind truth keeps you aligned. Evening brings a letter from the future in the handwriting of your present. It says, keep choosing the middle river. The middle river will keep choosing you. You step onto your balcony, and the night brings a breeze that sounds like agreement. Agreement with what matters has become your new wealth. Wealth that can't be counted is the safest kind. You close your eyes. and the sentence that once arrived with thunder now whispers with ease. Stop, because this is going to happen, and you are ready. You are ready, and readiness keeps the door open. You wake to a softness in the air that feels earned rather than borrowed. The light through the window lands like a promise with good posture. Promises with good posture never bow to fear. The floor greets your first step as if the house knows your new rhythm. Your heartbeat keeps gentle time with the room's quiet hum. Quiet becomes your most accurate instrument. You make coffee and taste focus instead of frenzy. Focus sits with you like a wise friend who does not raise their voice. Wisdom enters without knocking when you keep the door unlatched. The calendar on the wall is still the same paper, yet the dates are heavier, with meaning. They carry appointments that like you back. Mutual liking becomes the end of self-sabotage. You pick up a pen and the page does not resist your hand. The page welcomes the weight of clarity and lines form without stutter. Stutter leaves when you stop trying to prove your permission. A message pings your phone with urgency disguised as opportunity. You read it in full, breathe, and choose the slower yes that ages better. Better aging beats faster applause every time. You walk into the day with a pace that nourishes rather than depletes. Nourishment becomes the new measure for your yes. And a yes that starves you is now an easy no. On the street, even the traffic behaves like choreography you were meant to join. You cross not because the light changed it, but because alignment did. Alignment always has the right of way. A stranger meets your eyes and it feels like a subtle transfer of courage. Courage is contagious when it stays humble. Humble courage builds rooms where weary people can breathe. You pass a familiar door and realize you no longer need what used to live behind it. Letting go does not leave a hole. It reveals space. Space is not emptiness, space is invitation. An email arrives with language that once would have spiked your pulse. Your pulse stays even because panic lost the passwords to your attention. Attention is guarded now by discernment that never sleeps on shift. You revisit the list of obligations and feel their weight become negotiable. Negotiable burdens shrink to proper size or dissolve completely. Dissolving is not failure, it is chemistry in your favor. A small appointment turns into a meaningful exchange that adjusts your course by a precise degree. Tiny degrees create new horizons over time. Time respects small true turns more than large false leaps. You practice the sentence, "That is not mine to carry," until it fits your mouth perfectly. The sentence becomes a key you use daily. Keys only look small. Their impact is architectural. Archangel Michael says, "The simplest obedience creates the widest corridors." Corridors of favor are never crowded when humility leads. Humility walks ahead of you like a lantern you do not have to hold. You find yourself remembering the countdown without the fear that first rode beside it. Memory no longer weaponizes itself against your peace. Peace refuses to be evicted by echoes. A friend calls, voice tight with a crisis you cannot fix but can steady. You offer presence that doesn't perform, and their breath slows by imitation. Steady is generous even when it sounds quiet. You step into a meeting where agendas sharpen like knives. You bring a tablecloth of kindness and cover the steel. Kindness blunts edge without denying reality. When asked to defend your value, you offer fruit instead of explanations. Fruit ends debates more quickly than arguments. Arguments are hungry, fruit is full. An unexpected bill arrives, but so does an unexpected provision. Provision and problem appear like synchronized swimmers keeping time with grace. Grace enjoys balancing books in ways you cannot predict but can trust. You sit down to plan the next quarter and notice your goals have learned manners. They no longer shout, they stand in lines and wait their turn. Order is the love language of sustainable momentum. The guide appears again, almost invisible in the corner of your attention. They raise an eyebrow toward a door labeled collaboration, and it swings as if oiled by goodwill. Goodwill is the currency that spends best in complex rooms. You enter and meet people who feel like answers you did not know how to phrase. Their competence is quiet, their humor unforced. Unforced things travel farther. Together you build something that refuses gimmicks and chooses clarity over spectacle and integrity over speed. Products born of integrity become references for others who were tired of glitter. You revisit boundaries and discover they now carry warmth instead of walls. Warm boundaries invite the right people and redirect the wrong ones without drama. Drama loses its audience when peace is well lit. A rumor brushes by and you don't turn your head. Turning your head was how it used to recruit your attention. Attention now reports to purpose, and purpose has high standards. You invest an hour in silence the way others invest in markets. The return shows up as crisp edges on your decisions. Crisp edges end the fray of second guessing. Someone thanks you for not drinking to make them comfortable. They didn't realize they were asking you to fold yourself into a shape too small for your spirit. You stay unfolded and offer a chair instead. A door you feared because it guarded a conversation opens with gentle gravity. You step through with a voice that learned tenderness without surrendering truth. Tender truth mends without tearing. The conversation ends with relief that doesn't gloat. Relief quietly rearranges furniture so everyone can sit. Sitting becomes agreement that doesn't require signatures. You take a walk by the river and notice the surface reflect weather and not essence. Essence flows beneath disturbance unchanged. You choose to live where the current is steadier than the wind. Back home, you review your commitments like an arborist studies branches. Anything that steals sap without bearing fruit gets trimmed with respect. Respect for what remains is how growth speeds up. A small child points at a bird and laughs as if discovery just entered the world. You laugh too because delight is a teacher with excellent credentials. Joy teaches better than fear ever did. You decide to claim your mornings for future building. Future building prefers early light and honest lists. Honest lists outlast mood swings. An invitation arrives to return to a room you outgrew. You decline with gratitude rather than guilt. Gratitude closes doors softly so the hinges don't remember your exit as anger. Your sleep deepens because your day no longer borrows from tomorrow's energy. Borrowing felt like strategy. Repaying felt like shame. Now you live within means that keep expanding. You answer a complicated email with a simple boundary. The thread shortens instead of multiplying. Multiplying threads are often just fear-knitting sweaters you don't need. A project hits turbulence and you do not mistake it for a verdict. Turbulence is weather, not truth. You hold steady altitude until the sky clears, and it does. You check in with your body like you would with a friend. It tells you what rests and what strains. You listen, and listening becomes healing that doesn't need an audience. Archangel Michael says, the proof you seek is already walking toward you at a human pace. Human pace protects miracles from turning you into a machine. Machines move fast. Souls move true. You recall the first 30 seconds and smile at their boldness. Boldness still visits, but now it asks for tea instead of setting off alarms. You learn to host it with calm hospitality. A door with your name etched deeper than before opens into a library of next steps. The books you need find your hand without searching. Previan loves efficiency when worry isn't interrupting. You mentor someone who thinks they're late. You show them your calendar and the unhurried quality of purpose. Unhurried purpose is magnetic and they relax on sight. A call you dreaded finally happens, and it is kinder than you rehearsed. Rehearsals often cast fear as lead actor. Reality prefers nuance. Nuance saves time and relationships. You clear a shelf and place a single object that carries meaning without weight. Meaning without weight is what maturity feels like in your hands. Heavy symbols retire when substance shows up. In the afternoon, you hear rain approach like a parade you didn't plan. It washes the city and your nervous system simultaneously. Clean streets mirror clean thoughts. You receive feedback that would have wounded you a year ago. Now it lands as compost rather than condemnation. Compost grows gardens if you spread it instead of sleeping in it. An old temptation returns wearing new clothes. You recognize the walk even if the outfit changed. Recognition is protection in civilian clothes. You say yes to an event because the room needs your steadiness. Your steadiness holds shape even when others' urgency splashes. Splashing no longer makes you smaller. It makes you clearer. Later, you write a note to your future team about culture. Culture is what happens when no one is performing. You choose generosity plus standards and decide to keep both. A door labeled complexity opens into simpler language. Simpler language honors intelligence more than jargon does. Intelligence loves clarity because clarity loves results. You walk past a mirror and notice your shoulders have forgiven old winters. They sit lower now, unburdened, ready. Readiness looks good on you because it belongs to you. The messenger with the cobalt thread stands by a window you hadn't seen. They gesture and the glass becomes a plan. Plans that arrive this way draw breath and bend time. You map the next 3 steps instead of obsessing over 30. 3 honest steps attract the 4th without argument. Obsession is replaced by cadence. Someone tries to sell you control dressed as certainty. You choose curiosity dressed as courage. Courage travels farther on less fuel. The evening sky writes soft instructions in a color you can finally read. You follow them without hurrying, and everything lands on schedule. Schedules like to be respected, not worshipped. In the quiet, you practice receiving good news without bracing. Bracing had become a habit you called realism. Realism without fear is a better translator. Morning again, and the city greets you by first name. You greet it back with work you're not afraid to sign. Signatures are your quiet declarations of presence. You decide that excellence without anxiety is your new baseline. Baselines prevent drift when applause is absent. Absence of applause becomes irrelevant to your trajectory. You protect time with the same devotion you once gave to excuses. Excuses retire without a party. Retirements can be dignified even without cake. A colleague notices your pace and matches it without competition. You create a small ecosystem where pressure loses oxygen. Oxygenated work thinks better and loves longer. An invitation to speak arrives and you accept because your voice has graduated from survival school. Graduates carry honor without needing a diploma on every wall. Your diploma is the fruit your choices bear. You craft your message and leave room for silence to breathe between paragraphs. Silence does not scare you anymore. Breathing rooms change outcomes. At the event, the room leans forward and then relaxes. They are safe because you are safe. Safety travels from the center to the edges. You finish without fanfare and people thank you the way thirsty ground thanks rain. The gratitude is mutual and unforced. Mutual and unforced is the new standard for your exchanges. A door called after opens, and what used to be a crash becomes a glide. You glide because nothing essential was faked. Authentic flights do not need turbulence to feel real. You circle back to the ledger and see surplus where survival once camped. Surplus teaches you generosity with precision. Precision generosity multiplies farther than random charity. You sow into projects that won't mention your name. Hidden seed grows forests that will shade you later anyway. Shade does not ask for credit to be cool. A letter from someone you thought lost arrives with softness and regret. You answer with boundaries that carry forgiveness. Forgiveness keeps dignity company. You learn a new skill at an age you once considered late. The skill hands you younger eyes. Younger eyes spot wonder where older fear saw only risk. A distraction knocks, and you let it pass without opening. Not everything that knocks is a guest. Hosts learn the difference and stop apologizing for protecting their home. Your phone stays on a table for hours while you do work that matters. Mattering becomes your metric more than metrics do. Metrics are tools, mattering is north. Archangel Michael says, keep your yes honest and your pace human. Honest yes and human pace are the two rails of longevity. Longevity invites legacy without letting ego drive. On a day that tries to bend you, you bend like a willow rather than a matchstick. Bendable strength outlasts brittle intensity. You remain rooted while the wind remembers your name. You begin a practice of ending each day with 3 satisfactions. Satisfaction trains your brain to recognize completion. Recognition of completion dismantles the addiction to endless striving. A door labeled mentorship invites you to become what you once needed. You accept and show up with stories that refuse to glorify confusion. Clarity makes better legends. You enter rooms that used to shrink you and notice they've become proportional. Proportions change when self-respect straightens your spine. Straight spines carry peace like a visible crown. You give a gift anonymously and the quiet thrill outlasts any applause. Thrills that outlast applause become habits that make you light. Lightness is strength without swagger. When disappointment arrives, it does not set up camp. It checks the weather, notices the climate of resilience, and moves on. Movement is your ally when stagnation tries to seduce you. You receive a correction from someone you respect, and your ego nods instead of snarling. Nod becomes your reflex in rooms where growth is the point. Reflexes can be retrained and yours are proof. Your mornings now start earlier by desire, not alarm. Desire wakes you with soft hands and honest invitations. Honest invitations are the ones you keep. You write a plan with margin built in like generous sidewalks. Crowded sidewalks cause stumbles, generous ones create conversations. Conversations are how strategies learn to breathe. You add beauty to your workspace purely for the sake of delight. Delight is not a bribe, it is food. Fed hearts make sharper decisions. You decline an offer that would have flattered you but starved your mission. Flattery and mission rarely share a kitchen. You choose the table where substance cooks. A meeting runs long, and you end it with a clear sentence. Clear sentences save hours. Saved hours grow gardens. You revisit the river at dusk and watch the surface learn stars. Stars reflected on moving water teach you how to hold motion and wonder at once. Holding both becomes your quiet specialty. Someone brings confusion into your orbit and it evaporates in the climate you've cultivated. Climates change visitors more than visitors change climates. You've become weather. You honor your body with rest before it begs. Begging with the old system. Listening is the new. Listen to bodies repay with longevity. You end a friendship with peace and gratitude instead of flame. Endings with honor age well in memory. Memory thanks you for clean exits. Without noticing, you stop narrating your fear to yourself. The internal reporter retired for lack of content. Your new headline is simple. Faithful progress continues. A door called Sabbath opens into a meadow where achievement is not invited. You sit and the grass does the growing. Growth without you is a lesson you keep returning to. You stop treating joy like dessert and make it a main course. Main courses sustain, dessert celebrate. Sustained celebration looks like a life that tastes good most days. After months of walking like this, someone says your presence makes rooms kinder. You accept the compliment and let it pass through you to the source. Passing it through prevents buildup that turns to pride. You find that yes and no now ring with the same clarity. Clarity is how you respect the people you love. Respected people don't need managing. The city, which once felt like a test, now feels like a partner. Partners plan together instead of posture. Posture lost its audience when you chose usefulness. In a quiet moment, you realize the original instruction still echoes with warmth rather than pressure. Pressure built muscles, warmth builds homes. You live in both outcomes with gratitude, but prefer the house. A final letter arrives from the version of you who needed proof. It contains a single word written 3 times, here, here, here. You place it on your desk as a compass that points to presence. You open the window and let the evening come close. Evening wears the same fragrance as the first day you listen. Listening gave you a life that doesn't shout. You close your eyes and trust the night to keep what you've planted. Trust sleeps deeply because it knows who keeps watch. Kept watch is why you wake rested. Morning again, and the first thing you hear is peace choosing you before you choose it. You say yes like you've learned to do. Yes, and another day opens like a door you designed together.